Hi guys.
Hello.
Hi Mark, how are you? Ooh, you look like you're somewhere nice. Or is that a backdrop? Oh, I can't tell.
It's a backdrop. But those trees behind me are 90 meters tall.
Yes. Excellent. Where is it from?
About an hour outside of Melbourne.
See, I'm in the wrong country too.
The ash forests.
Can't tell. You're too tiny on the screen for me to identify them. Very nice.
Eucalyptus regnans and Eucalyptus obliqua. You can see. Clearly, that's what they are.
Clearly. Melbourne's gone into lockdown again. Did you see that?
Yes, I did. My poor daughter is there and she's experiencing it all again.
Oh, I know. Well, yeah.
Ben, nice to meet you.
What's that?
Yes,
I just said hello, Ben. Nice to meet him.
Yes,
I don't think I've spoken before.
No, I don't think we have, other than by email. Thanks very much for your comments. They've been very helpful.
Oh, that's good. That's good. What did you make of the last set that I sent about?
Yeah, so I mean, we chatted a bit last week about these. I've looked through most of them. I've been responsible for certain sections, so I have left some of the sections to other people to check because that's their work. But I felt on the introduction and section 4, which were the ones that I'd contributed mostly to, they seem fine, and I've addressed the comments. I think, Luke, you said you'd looked at section 5 on recitation.
I was particularly about the issue of sort of the front end of the business regarding the need for modelers to be more inclusive when they're building these bloody things. I don't know whether it fits in this paper or not, or whether it's in another paper in the same set, or
I guess if it's more the kind of mathematical mechanistic models, there's another paper that deals with that, and there's also a policy paper that deals a lot with including policymakers in building models as well. Right. If it's in terms of statistical estimation, then it's perhaps something we could talk a bit more about here. I guess the elicitation section is somewhat discussing that and how you go about getting expertise from people outside of the mathematical modeling.
Sorry.
I think it's a good point though, Mark. Oh, sorry, time delay there. Sorry, Ben.
No, I was just welcoming a few people that have joined, but yeah, go ahead, Kat. So.
Well, I think it's a good point because we've been running this multi-model exercise, and what's really interesting is we've got a couple of escaped physicists, in the spirit of epidemiology, and they come in and initially they're quite naive, but then every now and again they'll say something and you can just see all the epidemiologists going, "Ooh, didn't think about it that way," and scurrying off and changing their models. And so it's actually been quite productive in the sense that having that diversity, in this case of expertise, has triggered these other ideas. And I think that can be quite healthy. So I do take Mark's point as a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of expertise in different fields, and a lot of the work in ecological models as well, I think, has become very useful in terms of epidemiology. A lot of the complex models that are fitted in population dynamics, for example, and the observation processes that are required for detection of animals are often quite similar to some of the issues that we face in epidemiology as well. So I think there's absolutely a lot of shared information that maybe doesn't cross the boundaries because people tend to focus in on their area and it doesn't get picked up in other areas as well. But yeah, I think there's definitely lessons we can learn there.
I mean, we've just had a paper accepted in PLOS Biology that's about surveillance for COVID and sort of how to design that. And we've pulled very heavily from capture, mark, recapture literature from wildlife. And it's just weird how some of these things haven't trickled across and other things have.
Yeah, there's a few papers in kind of HIV and drug monitoring as well that have used capture recapture methods, because inherently drug users are very unknown quantities because by nature they're very much hidden. So there's a lot of similarities there as well. But yeah, that's really interesting.
I haven't met everyone on this call. previously.
Yeah.
Can I introduce myself?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
I'm Mark Bergman from Imperial College. I'm a botanist. You can tell by the trees behind me.
Hi, Mark. Nice to meet you. I'm Luc Quaffeng. I'm based in Rotterdam, across the water. I'm in mathematical modeling public health.
Hi, I'm Valerie Isham. I'm attached to UCL, but I'm actually in Warwickshire. I don't think you've got too many of those trees around Imperial either.
No, we don't. They're starkly absent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Chris Overton. I'm a postdoc at the University of Manchester working on epidemic and evolutionary modelling.
Peter or TJ, I don't mind. Peter was next on the screen.
So I'm Peter Chandler. I'm a statistician at the University of Exeter, particularly interested in uncertainty quantification in complex numerical models.
TJ.
Hi, I'm TJ McKinley. Sorry, I'm also at Exeter with Peter, but I'm a statistician, worked mostly on infectious disease methodology and things. I'm just apologising in advance because I'm going to have to shoot off in about 10 minutes because it's half term. And
yeah, that's fine. I mean, this was just a very short meeting, I think, tonight, just to kind of update people on where we're up to. I haven't made as much progress this week as I'd hoped because of various exam boards and marking that I've had to do. But,
Katrina, do you know everyone?
Well, yeah, so I don't think everybody knows me. I'm Katrina Shea. I'm at Penn State, but obviously I'm originally British, or I wouldn't have this accent. Though someone once asked me if I was from Texas with my accent, which you wonder what they've been drinking.
It's got a way to go yet, Kat.
I can tell you that one. Yeah, and everyone calls me Kat here, so you can call me Kat if you prefer, but Katrina is my name. And I do outbreak stuff. So Mark and I actually know each other originally from plant stuff because I have a background in plant ecology as well. But I did my PhD my undergrad was in Oxford and my PhD was at Imperial, but out at Silwood Park. And then I moved to the States for postdocs and never came back.
Okay, Lorenzo is just joining us. So, hi, Lorenzo.
Hey.
We're just doing a quick round of introductions because we've got a couple of new people joining. So I don't know if you want to introduce yourself.
Yes. Sorry, I'm outside. Hi, I'm Lorenzo Pellis. I am I have a fellowship. I'm in Manchester. I'm a mathematician by training. I've been at Imperial first and Warwick. I am a member of SPI-M, so I've worked on some of the models that are used in the response. In particular, I've done quite a lot of work weekly to estimate reproduction numbers, then get mixed together with other groups and end up being combined in a statistical rigorous, semi-rigorous way, and then end up in the government website. So that's mostly, so I'm usually up to now I was a data-free person, but during this pandemic I've been more of a, I've done more parameter estimation than I have ever done in my life.
Not by choice.
Sorry?
Not by choice.
No, I don't mind. I'm enjoying it. I was surprised about the amount of judgment calls that are asked for somebody who's trying to do a fit using a potentially statistical rigorous procedure. There are still so many choices that you need to make. Basically, you need to, at any point in the process, you need to decide what you think it's trend and what you think it's noise to some extent. And that was a bit of a surprise for me. That's it. I don't want to say too much more. Thank you.
Sorry. So I don't know if we're expecting anyone else, but as it's 10 past, maybe we should kick off. So Mark's sent, as I said last week, an updated version with comments, which I've added to the Dropbox, and Kat added some comment. Well, Kat's separately added comments, which I've combined together. The introduction and section 4, I've been through and agreed most of the changes or suggestions, and responded or added a bit of extra text where Mark made some suggestions. I think Luke said he'd done the same to section 5. So we really need now section 2 and 3, which I know Lorenzo and Chris both said they were too busy this week, and I haven't done a great deal more than that. So that's where we're up to on that. Luke, did you want to?
Yeah, regarding section 5, I think Victoria Hemming indicated she is working on some contributions, and we should expect them soon.
Okay, so this is separate because there's a separate paper.
Oh, sorry, was that a separate thing? I
thought that was my interpretation, that
No,
this was for the...
This is because there isn't going to be a separate paper in a timely manner. She's expanding one section because they go, what they have is text that says, Cook's model is good, but so is Shelf and IDEA. And then they never say what they are. And I said, this is the beautiful opportunity to actually explain what those different protocols are for the reader that's reading this paper, rather than sending them off to references. And she's just, I think, adding a very short section, but to this paper, because the other paper is not happening.
That makes sense. Sorry, that was a...
Well, I misinterpret it too then, because I certainly thought from the email exchange that the separate paper had been resurrected, but you're sure, Kat, that...
I'm fairly sure. So Victoria was sending it today. Will Probert would still like to do it, but he's working for the WHO at the moment, and he can't, and it's not going to happen in the time frame of the challenges.
Sure.
Yeah,
I obviously got I misunderstood the...
But Mark, you interpreted it the way I did too.
Yeah,
right?
no, Valerie, it was a bit ambiguous, but no, I'm very certain she just intends to write 100 or 200 words.
Okay.
That's all.
Right. That's fine. Yeah, I mean, we're still a few weeks off, I think, being ready to submit it, but there's also Hans's comments that need addressing as well. I'd meant to get some time this week to work on those, but haven't done, so that's still remaining. There's various topics, including network modeling and a few others that we discussed last week. They're not areas that I know a great deal about, but I'm happy to have a go at writing something, unless anyone feels particularly expert in those areas. Hi, Glenn, I know you weren't there last week.
Yeah, sorry, I'm a bit out of the loop.
No, that's fine. So Hans's comments were predominantly a few additions that he suggested we add to the paper, partly in reference to the 2015 series, but also some new types of data that I think we have discussed in chapter 8 and in some of the other sections, but he's made a valid point that there are estimation challenges relating to those that maybe we should discuss a bit further as well. So there's network type data and how we go about using that to inform models or inform estimation procedures. Phylogenetic data that I know we've talked about elsewhere, but again, what are the remaining challenges? Because I think both of those were discussed in 2015 series, but maybe haven't received as much attention, and why that's the case. And different countries having different denominator populations when discussing perhaps, you know, different measurements of mortality or different measurements of cases depending on what they've measured and what their control strategies are, for example. So those are kind of the main topics I think we need discussing in a bit more detail, but is there anything there that you feel you...
I can probably have a go at the phylogenetic.
Yeah,
thing.
okay.
I'm not sure I've got much to say about networks, but I can have a look at that if you...
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm happy to write a paragraph on that, but I very much welcome criticism from others,
yeah,
or more references if you know of papers that have worked on that. But I can work on that this week. Hopefully I'll have a bit more time after exam boards on Tuesday to look at that in more detail.
Can I just ask what on the network? I'm a little bit concerned that it might overlap with interventions slash modeling.
Yeah. So that was part of my job, was to go back. I haven't looked through some of them and made some small references to them in the comments on the document in the Dropbox where Hans' comments have been pasted, but I need to go back and check that we are either making some new comments or specifically relating to estimation. And if not, we can just cross-reference the other sections. I think Hans just wants us to make some reference to these topics rather than, at the moment, it just looks like we've ignored them rather than being covered elsewhere.
There'll be a bit in the modelling paper, won't there, when we've finally got that sorted.
Yeah.
When I get my act together, yeah.
But not so much.
I mean,
particularly, I mean, we were trying to stick to generic modelling rather than overlapping with estimation, but it might be appropriate to put a link in. Yeah,
and it might just be that nobody's really dealing with it because it's challenging, in which case we know we can just state that it's hard and it's an ongoing area of active research. It seems to be the stock phrase.
I mean, so yeah, I mean, in the interventions, we have a small section about sort of collecting and using contact data, and it's in the context of trying to understand how those contacts change during interventions. So obviously it makes sense with the subject of the paper, because obviously we have all these studies, sort of these baseline studies like COMICS and things, and they are updating them sort of throughout the pandemic, but it's not easy to see exactly what the impacts, especially for other countries, because they're not widespread, a lot of these contact data.
Do you also cover that different types of contacts in a network might have different properties in terms of transmission probabilities? Because these network models are always quite focused on number of contacts and not so much the quality of contacts. That might be an estimation issue or a modeling issue.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah, I mean, it discusses a little bit about different types of contacts, such as proximity or sexual contacts, but it doesn't go into talking about trying to work out how risky a contact is, which is more of an estimation challenge.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I definitely think that's something we can mention here, as I'm not aware of it's been mentioned elsewhere.
One thing, and apologies if we've already covered this, but I was having a scan through and I couldn't see it, but one thing that has come up more recently that I thought might be worth mentioning in the data availability is we talk a little bit about missing data, but one of the obvious gaps seems to be a lack of negative test information. So they seem to record a lot of numbers of positive tests.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time, particularly if you're trying to estimate things like sensitivity and specificity of tests and then feed that through to things like R0, we're having big discussions at the moment with regards to mapping probabilities of variance and things, because we know the positive test, but we don't know the testing effort, which seems like an obvious thing, but I mean, you know, it's been a problem in bovine tuberculosis for years. They record positive animals, but not negative historically. And so that I wondered whether that was something we should explicitly mention.
I think that's something that Hans, kind of mentions through his discussion on denominator populations, that you don't really know the underlying proportion of your testing. Sorry, Glenn.
I was just going to say that is something that we talk about in the data paper. So maybe it's just a sort of cross-reference that's all that's needed in this case.
Yeah.
I did put cross-referencing just because it's important for estimation, right? Like specific things that we want to estimate that we need those denominators for. I'm really sorry, folks. I've got to go. But
yeah, that's fine. Thanks, DJ.
I'll catch up and do something when I'm back at work properly. Thank you.
Yeah, cheers, DJ.
Cheers.
Hi,
Victoria. Thanks for joining.
Hi, everyone. I'm sorry I'm a bit late.
That's fine. Do you want to introduce yourself to anyone who doesn't?
Hi, I'm Victoria. I've been on the email thread of this and contributing to the expert judgment sections of this paper. So I'm currently based in Vancouver. I was a PhD student of Mark's, and I guess my PhD was on expert judgment, and I'm doing research at the moment in decision analysis, more related to conservation biology.
Thank you.
And we had one little question. Sorry, Ben, if I may.
Yeah, sure. No, go ahead.
You're planning on writing 200 or 300 words, maybe, or 100, 200 words to add to the current paper?
Yeah, it's done. I just wanted to read over it because
That's great. Yeah, sorry, some of us got a bit confused about the email thread that we thought this might be going into the secondary paper on expert judgment, but you're meaning it for this paper.
Yeah, I've written that, and Kevin Wilson's going to contribute as well as Tony and Willie, and Mark will have a look as well, so they can make sure that I've characterized those protocols correctly.
Brilliant, that's great, thank you. So I'm not sure there's much more to discuss tonight, unless anyone particularly wants to discuss anything in more detail. I think it's just carrying on with what we've been doing this week. As I say, section 2 and 3 needs just to accept the track changes that Mark's made, and I'll try and put together some of the paragraphs if Glenn's happy to do something on phylogenamics.
Yeah, what section would we put?
Well, that's also up for discussion, I guess. I suggested section 4, but it might also come into section 3 in terms of different data, depending on what you think the challenges are for the phylogenetic data, whether it's the estimation procedures in terms of algorithms and methods, or whether it's inherent difficulties with phylogenetic data that make it challenging.
Yeah, both probably.
Probably both, yeah. But, so either we can have 2 separate points in the different sections, or we just have it in one and link to the other section.
I'll have a read through and see where it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not been decided. I've made some suggestions, but
I mean, it could work a bit in the data indirectness challenges section, I guess. Because basically it's trying to work ways they're collecting a lot of this data, and we want to use it in the best way possible in estimation, but I don't think we're doing that yet, so it probably fits in there. The only issue is that all of those challenges fit into that section, so it might just, that subsection might become a bit long compared to everything else. I mean, we can write things down and then cut it, I guess.
Yeah, we do, and we don't have to do anything necessarily that Hans has suggested. There's just comments and suggestions, but I think the points he's made are valid, and it does make sense to try and at least discuss them briefly if there's space. Okay, anything else anyone wants to discuss?
No, it's just nice to see all the faces.
Yeah, nice to meet some new people as well.
Real humans doing real things.
Yeah. Well, we don't know that. We could be a computer generated image, I guess.
Well, you may be, I'm not.
Is it clear who is heading sections 2 and 3 and dealing with the track changes?
Yeah, so I think Lorenzo and Chris would be section 3 because they wrote most of that. Peter, are you happy to do?
Yeah, I'm happy to lead on section 2. I did send an email to Ian and TJ, but I think because of half term and exams, the game. So hopefully they'll be back next week, and we'll get that done.
Great, that's fine.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm happy to do it, but it's other people's work, so I'd rather them be happy with it first.
I'm free from about 12 PM on Thursday, so I should be able to get the changes made before the meeting, hopefully.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, so we can plan to meet at the same time next week with the same link. If you have any queries before then, let me know. But otherwise, have a good weekend and see you next week.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, thanks, Ben.
Bye, everybody.
Everyone. Nice to meet you.
Bye.
Bye.